Hello, video on demand people. Assuming this is working, let's see. Oh, yeah, looks like it's working. Hello, video on demand people. Let's let everybody know that we are live. Hope everybody's having a good Sunday. Draw Steel Ancestries video. Yeah, we are live. Bing bong. What's up, Andrew Shears? Welcome to the show. Fanvola, I believe you are the person, if I recognize your name correctly, who threw together the Fall of Black Bottom maps at somewhat short notice so that I could run it for Z Bashu and his friends, which we are still doing and is still super fun. So thank you for that. It's a little overwhelming. There's a lot of information. That's a really complicated. That first encounter in the inn is really complicated. But I mean, it's sort of a breeze to run in the codex compared to trying to do all that stuff by hand. Are you kidding? Get out of here. Bridger Burt is getting the tomb ready to run for the first time. I predict you will have fun, but one never knows. Good luck. Oh, nice. The tavern part of the module is in the codex for other people to download. Can they find it? Is it publicly available, publicly visible? Well, publicly to the codex folks. I hope so. Oh, look at that. TSOT62 got their Draw Steel books yesterday. Awesome. A+. That makes us super happy. It's an enormous amount of work. Hypnotique. I got there. I'm not dumb. Not like people say. I'm smart, and I want respect. Hyped to crack a sun. Yes, well, hopefully the sun does not crack. It's the boy from Norfolk. What's up? NFM, normal for Norfolk. Yeah, well, the people, that's the nice thing about the release of Draw Steel is that compared to a classic game release where it comes out, especially coming from video games, where there's what they call a day and date release where everything happens on this one day, right? There's all this marketing and people can download it. You get this enormous pulse of interest, but I'm not sure that's healthy. I think, what we had was we had the Patreon, right? So there were builds of the game that people could download and play. And so people were talking about it. So people online see the game hasn't even released yet. People online can see, it exists. People are talking about it, and that builds some heat. And then eventually the PDF comes out. The PDF came out on July 31st for Draw Steel, and that creates an enormous amount of heat. But just as that heat is starting to kind of die down a little bit, which it always does, right? Just as that heat's starting to dry, all of a sudden the books start shipping, right? And different people in different parts of the world are getting their books at different times, and there's pulses going out. And eventually the limited editions start showing up. And eventually, fingers crossed, in the next 10 days or so, 2 weeks, the Ajax editions will start showing up. And that having these booster rockets, right, that keep the heat to a high boil, I think it's frustrating because it's a lot of work getting these books to people. It is I just saw somebody on YouTube like 4 days ago. YouTube put this in front of me, like, do you want to see this? And it was, what it's like to fulfill a Kickstarter yourself. And on the thumbnail, it was like 1,700 orders. And I was like, we couldn't operate. We've got like 40 to 50,000 orders that we've got to, and that's 80 to 100,000 books, because most people got both. But it's just so much. It's so much. It takes so many different. Anyway, we talked about this last night on Twitch. We don't need to go over it again. But it's what all our production logistics people are working on. So it's on my mind. Avenger 99. I predict you will be happy. So we'll see. That is a dumb question. You're right. No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry. I'm joking. I was just, yeah. Why Atari Adventure profile picture? What does it mean to you? It's just one of the first games I ever fell in love with. I don't know, probably nine playing Atari Adventure on the Atari, not as a retro thing. It was new. And it was the first game that had an Easter egg in it. And I beat that game. Like I found everything. Like I found the invisible, like 1 pixel big blinking, it's not blinking thing that you can pick up and and that gets you into behind the glowing wall. Yeah, it was a big deal. It was a big deal for me when I was a kid. Is Dark Heart of the Wood a reference to the Magic the Gathering card? What Magic the Gathering card? I mean, it's not impossible that I might make references to Magic the Gathering cards, but they would be Magic the Gathering cards from 1993 to 1994. Because at that point I got out of that game and I played Magic the Gathering was we thought a kid's game. Like, oh, this is so simple, right? And so it was the first one. So no one knew, is this a complicated game or is it a simple game? Because there was nothing to compare it to. And so I belong to that generation, now long defunct, sadly, of collectible card games where they were way more complicated than Magic the Gathering. Like the Middle-earth collectible card game, the Dune collectible card game. Love those games. Legend of the Five Rings, which was crazy complicated, especially if you play it the way we did. Multiplayer, like 5, 6, 7 players sitting around a table where it breaks down really badly, but we did it anyway. Official Third Ski is surprised by how much lore there is in the Monster Book and Hero Book. Such an interesting idea. Oh, okay. Good. Excuse me. Andrew Downing says, my group plans to use Draw Steel as a persistent campaign we use for weeks. Or when? For weeks. We hope you played for more than that, but when, we'll take what we can get. But we can't play our main game as West Marches style. I mean, I've seen, there are people, I think our mod team is currently playing in a West Marches game using Draw Steel. Oh, it is from the dark. Well, I mean, maybe you tell me. I don't know. I obviously I didn't think so, but I mean, it is just a bunch of words put together. So it's up to you, Hypnotique. If you want it to be, then it is. How is the Summoner coming along? Well, I'll tell you in 4 days, because it releases on, I guess, 5 days. It releases on Friday. It's a PDF only product. It's probably going to be about $15. It might be more, but I don't remember. Last time I talked about it, I think it was $15. I think it's 60 something pages for a single class, but that's 4 subclasses, each one of which has an entire monster manual that they summon. That's where people are like, oh my God, that's so many pages. I'm like, well, how do you think summoning is going to work? You need things to summon. Do I have any favorite artists from pieces from vinyl jackets? I assume you mean, I assume you mean by vinyl jacket, I assume you mean album cover and not a vinyl jacket. Yeah, album cover. I mean, Hypnosis was kind of the gold standard for that kind of stuff. Storm Thorgerson and Aubrey Powell, Poe, as he is known. He's still alive. They're responsible for not all, but a lot of the Pink Floyd ones. I mean, all the ones that you don't like, if you just go look up great album covers, 70s, for instance, that's, Roger Dean. I actually love, I know that people see them as being incredibly cheesy, but I was the right age for this stuff. His Asia covers are unbelievable. I love, like, there's the second album, which has this like weird ass android with a big afro, and there's like digital pyramids behind it. It's like, wow, what is this? I love that stuff. That still works on me. I've got posters that I bought off eBay as an adult for Roger Dean's stuff. I always had a weird, looking at like records when I was a kid, going to record stores and not knowing anything about the band or the album or anything like that. You just get this image that shows up and you're like, I don't know anything about this band. And I remember the album by Supertramp, a band that I would come to like. Yeah, I don't love Supertramp. I like them. They've got a couple albums that I really like, even in the quietest moments. Brilliant. Fool's Underture, is that an album or is that a song? I think it's a song on that album. Prime of the Century, maybe. And they have an album called Brother, Where You Bound? And the album title it's just these words, Brother, Where You Bound? And it's like the evolution walking thing, like Cro-Magnon human, which I think we now understand that that's not how human development worked, but whatever, close enough for a vinyl album. And for some reason, looking at that album cover, especially when I was a kid, and I had no context for this, I didn't know what Supertramp was, even though I had probably heard some of their songs on the radio because they were, they had pop songs every once in a while. They were like half a pop band, half a prog band. Really interesting. 2 guys, Roger Hodgson and the other one. I'm looking at this, and the album cover started to kind of attain the unique intersection between the name of the band, Supertramp. What is that? I don't know. Brother, Where You Bound? And then and it's so stark and simple. that it started to take on this like cosmic significance, I thought. So yeah, I mean, I really like, is it Derek Riggs that does all the did all the Iron Maiden covers? Fuck, unbelievable. Being a teenage kid, you know, that's one of the great things about listening to music at that age is because I was like 15, 16, 17, and the guys making the music were like 19, 20, 21, right? So they still had incredibly vivid memories about what it was like being a 15-year-old and the kind of stuff that we were obsessed with. And that's, you know, go look at the cover of Somewhere in Time. It's like, yep, there it all is. Anyway, so yeah, those guys. I'm also excited, Echo 7392, for you to try Draw. There's a lot of people whose names are a bunch of letters and then a bunch of numbers. That must be a YouTube thing. I bet it does that procedurally. Can't wait to hear the thought process for the polder. I mean, I don't know that there is much. You know, good fantasy settings have halflings in them, or have hobbits in them. Good fantasy settings have a lot of things. They have a big maelstrom oceans in the middle of the map somewhere. You know, that's a checklist. And yeah, so, and then we made them. And for whatever reason, whenever I try to sit down and write a polder, they always come off as like tough guys, right? Almost like maybe a New York accent, but maybe not really. Yeah, I don't know why. I can't explain it. You now know almost everything I know about why the polder work the way they do. That's going to be one of the easy chunks. When you look at the chapters, and there's like some of the chapters are this long and some of them are that long, polders are going to be like, yeah, well, yeah, everybody likes halflings. Me too. Do 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 do. The Queeman. There were artists back then who could work exclusively as album artists. Yeah, I mean, you've heard of some of them. Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd was not a singles band. I mean, metal doesn't. I mean, Iron Metal, Priest, and the new wave of British heavy metal. They charted in England. Yeah, you know, Iron Maiden had hits in England. In America, no, metal did not get into the charts in a serious way. I mean, you got hair metal like Bon Jovi. They used to call bands like that. This is a relatively obscure reference. In fact, it's so obscure that I have seen people go, no, they didn't in these chats, which I find delightful. But they used to briefly, like the LA Music Press would call those bands like Cinderella and Rat and Bon Jovi. Actually, I just lumped a bunch of different bands in together that don't belong together. But bands like Bon Jovi, they called them teeth metal because they were smiling all the time. They had perfect teeth. Right? They didn't look like the guys in Maiden or the guys in Metallica, where they looked like a gang, basically, right? They looked like, you know, the fun kids next door. Look at that. Yeah. Yeah, lots. I mean, I think I would say that all the music worth listening to is album-oriented music because singles are disposable by definition. Like, there's only one Lamb Lies Down on Broadway. There will never be another, but every single is like, doesn't matter what you think about it. There's going to be another hit single next week. Probably another 10, top 40, top 100, maybe even. They just keep making them. What was the last darling you had to kill? I wonder what people think that means. I don't know what kill your darlings means in this context. What my experience with the phrase kill your darlings is when you are working with someone like a movie studio, like go watch a movie called State in Maine. That's all about killing your darlings. It's a great movie too, David Mamet. A lot of fun. I quote that movie all the time, and no one has any idea what I'm talking about. Kill Your Darlings is about that intersection between your creative vision and the people paying for it. So, here at MCDM, who are those people? Us. We're paying for it. So there isn't really so that notion of I, the author of this work, think this is a critical element of it, but in order to get it to the people, I have to compromise. And the money people, the publishers, the movie studio, the record label, they are like, nope, this has to go. And so you have to make hard decisions. You're like, well, in order to get this to the people, we've got to ... But, there's lots of, and I guess the equivalent, that happens all the time in video games. And occasionally you get stuff in video games where everybody really believed in something, but there wasn't really just time. That often happens. I talked about this in an earlier stream about how once I had been in the business long enough and had become very senior on the team that I was on, I was a narrative director. I was at all the high level meetings, and there came to a point where it has more to do with when in production did this meeting happen than anything else, right? And so you'll have this meeting and you're like, I can tell that we're in the last third of the development of this game. There might still be like a year left, but that year is going to go by in weeks. And somebody has an idea and we have a meeting and everyone gets real excited. And I'm one of the people, and I don't make a stink about this, because what would be the point of that? If I'm right, I could just keep my mouth shut. I'm like, this is super cool. It's not going to happen. And I'll be leaving the meeting and I'll say that. And somebody goes, what do you mean it's not going to happen? I'm like, I can just tell. This is too new an idea, too late in the game. I've been through the ringer on this a couple times and I can just tell when an idea is like, so is that kill your darlings? I don't know. I think probably maybe the person whose idea that was and got real excited and got everybody in the room really excited will go on telling the story of like, I don't understand why this never worked, right? Why didn't we do it? And it's like, well, because it came on too late. It was too big an idea, too late. And yeah, we all agreed it was super cool, but again, that's a money issue, right? Like if the people in charge, if the people with the purse springs, that's interesting. What's a purse spring? The people with the purse strings want to pay for it, fine, but they tend not to want to. Like one of the things I think we've learned, although it may take some people in some companies another 10 to 15 years to learn it, is that video games are an incredibly bad investment for investors. Investors worry about something called the hurdle rate. The hurdle rate is how much money would you have made if you would just put your money in like Oreos? Right? You would get a return. You would get a return on this. It would be very minimal and it would be constant. Like every quarter you would get a return. Whereas video games, you put in an enormous, colossal sum of money. And the only thing that happens for the next 4 years is you are expected to put in more money. And then maybe at the end of those 4 years, you get a payout. Maybe not. Right? And so video games attracted a lot of really interestingly speculative investment over the past 15 years. Based on the promise of like 10xing, that's nothing now. People want 100x, right? That's what investors are chasing after. 100x doesn't exist anymore, but they don't know that. They say, oh yeah, 100x doesn't exist anymore, but then they still put their money on incredibly stupid bets. And so I think, that era of 4 years for a game being sort of normal, I think that's going to go by the wayside, but that's neither here nor there. So like, yeah, what that kill your darlings phrase, I hear it a lot, but I remember I was working on a game and it was an open world GTA style game. It was a military shooter and it was a lot of fun. And this is the sequel, which was orders of magnitude more ambitious for reasons we're not going to get into. And there was a point in the game where I don't know how this came up, but somebody brought up what happened to jets. Oh, we were having a meeting and somebody was like, well, originally this mission was you were going to get in a jet, but we cut jets. And the project director, the Matt Colville of that project was like, wait, we cut jets? When did we do that? And the tech director was like, months ago. He's like, what do you, and the project director got really angry. Was this a darling that got killed? Maybe, I don't know, but let's find out. This is what I mean. I'm like, I don't think that phrase means what people think they mean. Like this guy didn't make a hard choice. Nope. This guy was a victim. He was like, wait, what? When did we cut jets? And the tech director said months ago. And he was like, how do you not know this? And he's like, but they worked. They were in and working. And the tech director kind of went, uh-huh. What do you mean by working? He's like, I got in a jet and took off. And the tech director went, uh-huh. And did you try to fly anywhere? He went, why? Well, if you had tried to fly somewhere, you would have noticed that a jet can't go any faster than basically a helicopter, because otherwise the drive inside your Xbox would have to spin so fast to stream in the world at that speed that it would melt through the Earth's crust. And the project director was real grumpy about that for about 90 seconds. Real grumpy, right? But what can you do? The technology, the air is the air. What can be done? That's it. Was that a kill your darlings scenario? No, I wouldn't characterize it as such. So to me, kill your darlings is about making tough choices. It's about the tough choices you have to make to get your product to market, right? Well, we have different problems. We have huge problems. Those aren't them. I hate this thing that YouTube chat does, where if I leave it at 11:45 a.m. because that's the message I just read, it just decides to go and dump me back to the end. I wish there was a way to stop that. Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Reagan. Yeah, Knighthood says, I adore the name Polder. I don't know where it came. Where did the name come from? Where did the name Polder come from? This will be a story for the next video, but you can get a preview of it here first. I just made it up. It took me, it took me about 4 or 5 days, as I recall. But that 4 or 5 days happened over a 2 or 3 week span. It was in fits and starts where I would be sitting there. This is something that I did for my first novel. So this would have been like 15 years ago. Is I had my own sense for when I did not, I didn't want to call things orcs and halflings and all that nonsense. This is the world of my novels is very different from Orden in the games. And I wanted it to have its own identity. That was important to me. And I wanted people to see the work first rather than the genre it was in. And so I was stripping all these genre labels out. And whether that was successful or not is on a case-by-case basis. But I am happy and proud of the result. And halfling or hobbit was one of those. I was like, no, I don't even like halfling. They're a half person. They seem like whole people to me. What do you mean? And so I just thought about what they would call themselves. And I was looking for a certain shape of word. I can't think of, this happens to me a lot, sometimes it's like the beast heart was a good example of that. We did not know what the name of that class was. Blank heart has become really popular, it seems. But we didn't know what the name of the class was, but we knew we would know it when we saw it. It was James and I just going back and forth, literally in a call on Discord, going back and forth and names and ideas. And when we got soul, that was a breakthrough I felt. And that was really pointing in the right direction. When we finally got beast heart, I was like, yeah. And both of us were like, that's it. That's the name. Well, that's how I felt about Polder. There was a right name out there somewhere. I just didn't know what it was. And I was looking for, it had a certain shape. It had a certain kind of friendly shape to it. It was short. And I kept going back to Hobbit and what made Hobbit, 2 syllables, and it's got a O in it and stuff like that. That's how my brain works. And so I just have a notepad. I'll just noodle on it and I'll write stuff down and I'll leave it there and I'll go play video games or do my day job or whatever. And then I'll go back and I'll look at it again, and now with somewhat fresh eyes, and think, I'll tweak it and throw some vowels out. Literally, you'd be surprised at how writing a word down that you don't like, this is maybe actual advice, who the fuck knows? Writing a word down that you think, maybe that's it, but you don't like it, just change the vowels and see what happens. And you go, oh, and all of a sudden you see it a new way. And maybe that's not right, but it's pointing in a certain direction. Yeah, and that was it. And then people who speak, this is one of the things that kind of always surprises me is the people who are like, oh, that's a word in this other language. And I'm like, okay, what does that have to do with anything? And they think it's significant. And I'm like, isn't every made up word probably a word in some language? It's just that you don't know that because you don't speak those languages. Some of these are dead languages. Oh, this was, that means cat in Urdu. I'm like, oh, well, no. It sounds like that's a thing it's not something obviously I cared about. Anyway, blah blah. I do have a bunch of things here to read you folks. I don't know anything about the Proto Men except they did a really, really good covers album I think it's called The Cover Up. Whereabouts in the time lore of my campaigns are my novels set? Is Nicodemus still the Count of Rend? No. Nicodemus doesn't exist in the world of my novels. Is the chain running around Capital? I don't know that the chain exists. Like, my novels are in an alternate universe version. The thing is, when I decided I wanted to write novels, it was coming off the back of, or I should say in the middle of an incredibly negative experience in my career that kind of, among other things, destroyed the long-standing relationship that I had. Because it couldn't withstand. She said, "You're really good at dealing with work problems. You're not really good at dealing with interpersonal problems." And that was her kind of roundabout way of saying, it's the job or me. But the reality was, she felt like she had to say that because I had effectively already made that choice without even realizing I was making it. But yeah, I was experiencing an incredibly negative professional. I was going through an ordeal, and it lasted a long time. And as is often the case with people who write for a living on someone else's dime, I wanted something that was mine, that I controlled, that no one could tell me no, right? That no one, this was mine, and I was going to be as good as I could make it. And if it sucked, that was me. And if it was good, that was me. And there was no one else, right? And this is a lot of novels happen this way. This person writes for a magazine. This person writes for a newspaper. This person's a travel writer or whatever. And there's always an editor above them. And they're like, they get really frustrated. And so, yeah. And I thought about writing science fiction. I thought about writing fantasy. I got real hung up for a long time on the phrase, you should write what you know. And I'm like, well, what do I know? I know about game development, and what the fuck is that? And then I went, wait, hang on a minute. I know a lot about fantasy and science fiction as genres. I know a lot of genre criticism terms. I've read a lot of genre criticism, which I mean, I would say most people reading science fiction and fantasy don't even know that there is like real actual criticism of those genres, or at least there used to be. And so I thought that gave me permission. I was like, oh, I could absolutely write science fiction and fantasy. But what it did was there was a part of my brain saying, if that's what you're going to do, then you better leverage all that shit you know. Oh, okay. Yeah, good point. Write what you know. I know these genres. And I had to choose between science fiction and fantasy. And I had ideas for different kinds of stories in both. But it was I talk about this in the afterword, the author's note to the first novel. It was a podcast on This American Life about an Iraqi war vet. This is an American, not an Iraqi. This is an American who was a veteran of the second Iraq war, and about how the PTSD he came back with and the tools he used to try to solve it before he knew what was wrong with him and that he could get help, and about how the instincts that he built up, I mean, instinct is maybe the wrong word for it, right? But the adaptive behaviors that he developed that served him well, doing clear and sweep, maneuvers, breaking down doors and looking at a bunch of civilians and wondering if any of them has a bomb. The things that kept him alive there were going to kill him here in civilian life. And you don't get deprogrammed, right? And it was that podcast that made me go, it's got to be fantasy. I wanted to write that. What if Aragorn was real? Like, what would it really be like? Like, I know how many decades did Aragorn spend just being a ranger of whatever the northern version of Ithilien would have been, right? And I wanted to show you the price you'd have to pay for living that kind of life. And that seemed real to me. That seemed real. And I wasn't sure. I certainly had not read that before. I'm sure somebody else has written it, and so I needed a fantasy setting, and I'm lazy. I'm a fundamentally lazy person. And I was like, well, I've got this fantasy setting sitting here that I've been developing for the past 25 years for my D&D games. I might as well use that. And that's it. That's literally it. I didn't put any more thought into it than that. And at that point, Hayden's world became its own thing. I stole a lot of stuff from my D&D campaign, but they are essentially unrelated things. The thing that relates to them is that I made both of them up. And so I reserve the right to take some cool idea I had working on Draw Steel or whatever and stick it in the novels. Why not? But it's not because I had a cool idea working on Draw Steel. It's because I had a problem in the novel, and I'm like, what have I already written what could I grab and stick here? What Lego piece would connect these pieces and give it some structure? And I go, well, I've got this thing I made up for Draw Steel. Yeah, I'll throw that in. I don't know that I've done that, but I could. Excuse me. Do I ever explore any harsher metal styles? No, the opposite. I like melodic stuff. I like stuff that has harmony and melody and arrangements. And so I like Star One. Star One's great. Let's put some music on. Let's get this video demonetized. Come on. What? Actually, you know what? Let's go back. Let's do the Amtrak one again. Can't go wrong with Amtrak. This is an Amtrak mix. This is not Amtrak. It is Amtrak, but it's Amtrak picking music. Earthly Creature at 11:48. I am happily behind on chat. I like being behind on chat. Those of you who don't hang out my Twitch streams, I like being behind on chat because what happens is I read a message. I read a question. I'm like, that's a good question. And I talk about it for a long time. And then I read the next message. I talk about that, and then right, and then eventually I get to the point where, here are people responding to that thing I said an hour ago, and I read their responses, and that makes me think more things about that topic. And so what happens is you get like 4 or 5 topics that sort of bubble to the top of these streams, and it's like a rondo, right? Row, row, row your boat merrily, 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 row, row, merrily boat, and you're just going back and forth between these different subjects, and it's fun. It's a very civilized way to spend an afternoon. Hi, I'm your video DJ. How do the elements and elementals fit into your cosmology? That's a complicated question because in my setting, an elemental is just it's like Homo sapien. Elemental is an obscure science word for dwarves. Humans call those guys dwarves. They call themselves the elementals, right? And you know, the notion. I don't think personally. I didn't feel so strongly about this that I put my foot down, so it gets a bit confused, but that doesn't bother me. The real world is confused, and I value that in fiction. People also call those motes and sprites, I want to call them abominations, right? The things that are made of fire. What do you call that big thing made of fire? Well, in D&D it's called a fire elemental, right? But in my setting, if Draw Steel were the Matt Colville RPG, they would be called abominations. But colloquially, they're known as elementals. Okay, fine. The dwarves and elves are used to humans fucking all that stuff up, and they're like, you call us that, and you call us dwarves, and you call them elementals. All right, well, whatever. That is so common. That is so common. You have no idea. I've got, I think I might have it here. I'm going to show it to you. If you haven't seen this, you won't be able to see it because of the focus, but you'll get it. Right next to my copy of Mothership. You want to know what kind of world builder I am? This is the kind of world builder I am. These are 2 maps that I bought online. I don't know if this website even still exists. It's called the Atlas of True Names, and I got 2 of them. I got Europe and the World. Let's look at Europe. So this is a map that you will recognize, I am sure, of Europe. But none of these names are going to make any sense to you. For instance, what do you call this country here? What do you call this little island country here? This little volcanic island country, right? It's called Iceland. Okay, that's a bad example. Let's check out, what do you call this? Yeah, what do you call this country here? Sort of at the top, there's another island, a slightly bigger, tiny little island. What do you call this place up here? It is called Land of the Wanderers. Why? Because that's what Scotland means if you do the etymology. It's an etymological map. And you go, what the fuck? What is this place? It's called Barter Place, Tar Town, Boggy Town. I think that's Moscow. St. Rockfort, Barnacle Goose. There's a city here called Barnacle Goose. What the hell is that? But now the problem is I don't have the map of Europe memorized, so I don't know what any of these actual places are. Danish Fort. Amazing. Let's look around England. Green Hollow. I don't know what that is. Is that a city? Blackpool. That's okay. Got that. There's Westland, Ireland. Westland and Northwestland. Is that the Northwestland? No. It's the Northwest. Don't call it Northwestland. The people get angry at you. Here's a city that I would like to go to. I've been to this city. I've been here. I've been to the British Museum, Hillfort, London. Right? Well, one of the things that happens when you read these maps is you get all these names beyond the forest. Yeah, I can see that is literally beyond the forest. Here's a good example. Land of Strangers. Land of Strangers is the name of this place in southern Turkey, right? And it's like, well, how did that place get its name? Well, because we call it that place. And then the people who live there eventually get subsumed into this larger culture, and they have their own endonym for that place, but no one calls it that anymore. They just call it the people who, and there's stuff like the people who drink milk is on here. You're like, are you kidding me? Like for like 2,000 years, we've been calling this place a proper name, and it just means the people who drink milk, which means it's an exonym. It's an exonym. So that happens all the time in Orden. Is I'm always thinking about, what do these people call that? What do these people call that? So the elementals, properly speaking, are the dwarves, right? Fire, metal, stone. The children of Ord, not uniquely Ord on Eth and Cool, sort of, but yeah, the children of Ord. The dwarves are the children of Ord. And then you have the Heliox. Okay, the Heliox are the native denizens of the sun, and the sun is the source of all elements. But elements in the sense of the fundamental forces. That's the thing people get confused, which I actually like that they get it confused, because these things are confusing in the real world. They're confusing, and I like that. Is that earth, air, fire, water, green, rot, and void are the elements, but not green, the color green. No, that's just a word they apply to this fundamental force of nature that is the source of growth and change. Air, when people are speaking about the elements, when sages speak about the elements and they speak of air, they don't mean oxygen and nitrogen. They don't mean this stuff. They mean the fundamental force that creates speed and alacrity. And that some things are faster than others. Why? Right? That kind of thing. It's not because they have air inside them, like a pocket of air. No. It's because they are channeling or somehow embody this fundamental force that humans call. They already know what air is. They know that this is air. They're just using that term as a metaphor. These are metaphorical terms, and the the sages using it know that. And the Heliox are the native denizens of the sun. So they're like our Ganassi. And I don't know what they look like yet. And I don't know how they work yet, but we had a big meeting about them. We had a big visual meeting. And I think that they are glass people. They're made of glass. And they have, and so they are, each Heliox is sort of a metaphor for the sun itself. Because as the glass near the surface, they're like molten glass. And we looked at a lot of pictures of glass blowers and glass drying, or cooling, glass cooling. And as it cools, it develops dark spots on the surface that are only dark because they're not glowing all the way the inner bits are, right? And so we think that's how the Heliox might look. And the Heliox have phases that they go through. Each individual Heliox goes through phases. They go through 7 phases. They go through their earth phase, air phase, and we think it's not like periods of your life, like when you're young, you're in your fire phase. Nope, it's like on a daily basis. It might be on a weekly basis. It's closer to a lunar cycle, right? And we have a lot of ideas as to how to represent that. Willie's already done a lot of really cool design work on what the Heliox are about, and mechanically what choices you get when you play them. And what does it mean to change aspects, and how and I don't know where we're going to land on it. I had some ideas, and Willie was like, "Oh, that sounds cool," but it's up to the testers to let us know. It's not impossible that we overrule the testers, but you never we try to do that very rarely. And so yeah, the Heliox are the native denizens of the sun. The sun's just another world in order. It's definitely a space fantasy world because it's one of the upper worlds. And you're going to go there if Crack the Sun funds. So are those elementals? You take your pick. There's elemental species, the Heliox. There's the dwarves, who are, I think of as the real elementals. And then there's those bits of fire that walk around and attack people. And I think of those as abominations. But humans call them elementals.
My religion is very simple. My religion is kindness.
To my understanding, kill your darlings is more about recognizing when things you like aren't serving the larger vision. Well, if that's how you interpret that phrase, that's not the experience I've had, but if that's how you interpret that phrase, I don't know that I've ever had to do that, because if it doesn't serve the larger vision, then it is not a darling. That's always been my attitude. I'm not joking, or that's really how I feel. If it doesn't matter how much, it doesn't, like, I don't like things if they don't serve the vision. I'm like, get out of here, get out. What are you doing? Get out of here. You're wasting everybody's time, is how I feel about that stuff. Even the stuff I created. Oh man, I'm way behind on chat. 20 minutes, that's pretty good. Count Swooku. For a second, I thought your name was going to be Count Uwu-ku, but no. Yeah, I feel the same way. It's a remarkable journey. There are people, Count Swooku. Here's how the journey that we're going on together, the Matt Koval channel, the MCDM company, then Draw Steel, is, I think, extraordinary. But I'm sitting here in the eye of the storm. The moments in which I'm like, oh my God, and my jaw drops, is when I see people having success on crowdfunding platforms, bringing their own original Draw Steel ideas to market. And keep in mind, these people are like, they're asking for like $1,000, and they're happy to get it. And I recognize that guy's username, probably a guy, but not always. I recognize that guy's username from the original, from just Matt Koval's D&D videos before there was an MCDM. Like 2015, 2016, 2017. And I think about that person. I think about what kind of crazy journey did that person go on, where they were like, D&D sounds cool. This guy seems to know what he's talking about. Okay, cool. Oh, neat. He's making D&D books. Oh, cool. These are cool. Wait, they're making his own game. Now I'm making stuff for their game. I've got a crowdfunder. It funded that to me, that's the story. To me, that's the story. Like when you were trying to make Funky Dice work for Draw Steel and eventually give up on that. Yeah, but that wasn't a darling. That wasn't again, that was like the funky dice were just a means to an end. All these things are just means to an end. When for a game developer, and also me as a writer, I just finished the outline for my third novel. The experiences are very similar. As a game developer, as a writer, when I discover that funky dice don't work, it's like hallelujah, because now we're closer to the real thing, right? That's the real. I think I speak for most game devs. Is we're like, that idea was really cool and we were really excited by it, but it didn't work. And so then when it didn't work, then suddenly it wasn't very exciting, is it? Right? And so it's like, but you learn so much in the process of trying to make funky dice work. We were getting closer and closer and closer to something, but we didn't realize it. As we were trying to hone in on how to balance it and make it fun and layer everything we wanted onto it, but it was pointing in the direction of the power roll. And it was the power roll that we just didn't know that. We didn't know that we were headed toward the power roll. Yeah, I mean, isn't that how everybody, like, you know. Liquid Innovation, it's going great. How are you doing? I am now, it did that thing again, and now I gotta scroll back up. Uncle Dwalin says, I've never found write what you know to be a terribly helpful advice. Yeah, well, most people don't know most things. So that would be needlessly limiting.
There's supposed to be something going on there. So that's where we ended up with all the other lost souls from all over America. Just ended up on Haight Street.
Zero to go. Probably because I don't know what that is.
And we were sitting in this place called the Psychedelic Shop, just sitting on the floor in there for days when I first got to San Francisco, trying to figure out what to do and what was going on.
It happens at the Avalon Ballroom on Sutter near Van Ness in San Francisco. Next week, the Avalon.
So a lot of this stuff, I should probably give some context for this. I don't want to harp on this. We can move on. But when people ask me, almost every single time, and folks that have been in my Twitch chat will attest to this, almost every single time, somebody comes into chat with this idea they've heard about from online creators, whatever it is, kill your darlings, right? There's some writer out there who's like, there's two kinds of writers like this and writers like that. And people come, Matt, which one are you? I've never known any writer or game developer who used any of that language. Are you aware of that? I've never, I've been a professional creative since 1995, full time, uninterrupted. I was never a freelancer, right? And in that, what is that, 30 years? In 30 years, I've never heard anybody who does these things for a living use any of these lines. I've never met a writer, and I've worked with lots of writers. I've never met a writer who ever read any books on writing. No, that's a thing people waiting in an airport do. They look around and they go, oh, this sounds cool. And they read it and they're like, cool, neat. And it's not, none of this has anything to do with the work, right? None of that language, kill your darlings. None of that has anything to do with the work. That I think it's terminology people on the periphery of the work develop. And that's where it belongs. Same thing with like, write what you know. I got hung up on that and I didn't need to. Any update on Fighter? Yeah. Yeah, I got the outline done, which may not sound like much to you, but from my point of view, that is a bigger deal than getting the book done. Getting the outline done, that's the work. The outline is every single chapter in order, what happens when, who knows what, when do they know it, what is everybody's motivation, what happens in each chapter. Once I've got that done, which I finished a couple weeks ago, once I've got that done, the book will happen, assuming that I don't have a stroke or a heart attack or get in a catastrophic accident. So it would have happened this year, except we have a crowdfunder in just a couple weeks. We have a crowdfunder for Crack the Sun, and I got a lot of videos to make. I don't like radio silence for 6 months, and then there's a crowdfunder video, right? So we had the Draw Steel Ancestries video last week. This week is going to be the Black Friday sale video, where we talk about the Summoner, Fall of Black Bottom, and the Codex going to patrons. And that's fucking astonishing news. And then that's probably gonna be like 7 minutes of a video. And then the rest of that video for this week is just me talking about stuff you folks have made. It's gonna be the community creations video. And I love the idea of lumping the stuff we're making with the stuff you're making into one video. You know, why not? And then the crowdfunder video. So the work I'm doing on that has sort of sucked all the oxygen out of the room. And if not for that, I think my novel would have gotten done this year. And it might still. It's not impossible. I get vacation time too. Apparently I get Thanksgiving off. What is the best way to improve your writing? Humble hot guy, video coming soon. Video coming soon. No time for it between now and the crowdfunder video, but January, February, called Theory. And it's sort of the sequel to the community video, even though that doesn't have anything to do with the community video. It's just another one of those, this is what I've learned. And I get this question all the time. Now, there are lots of people out there who would find the idea of asking Matt Colville how to improve your writing laughable, because they think I am a self-evidently terrible writer. Of course, people feel that way about every writer you've ever loved, right? But that's another way of saying that is don't take my advice too seriously. There are lots of people who think I'm a shit writer. Okay, fair enough. But there's a lot of good advice out there. It's all right. All the advice is correct. You got to write every day, even if it's only one sentence. You got to build those muscles, right? And you got to build good habits. Find a place somewhere in the world. If it's in your house or your apartment, great. If it's at the library, if it's at a coffee shop, where every time you go there, you write, and you don't write anywhere else, and you only write when you're there. And you will start to associate. It's the same thing with homework. It's literally the same thing with doing homework. If you're 15 and you're struggling just getting homework done, and you're trying and you're motivated to do it, but it's just about building good habits. This is a place in my house where I only go to do homework. And when I am here, I do homework, and I don't do homework anywhere else. And eventually you just create these associations. It becomes almost Pavlovian, right? All that stuff is true. But there's something that I don't hear people saying, which I think you need if you want to be a good writer, right? If you want to take pride in the work and be considered a professional. And it's the same thing it's the same thing as you want to be a game developer. And there's the mechanical process of becoming a game developer, right? But that's not what you want. What you want is you want to be a good one. You want to be a good one, right? You want to be one where people know who you are and they buy your products and they like it, right? Same thing as being a writer. A writer, game developer, YouTuber. I can't tell you how many people I've seen try to do what I did. They saw Matt Colville's success on YouTube and they're like, well, I could do that. And none of them got anywhere near it. And when I watch some of these people are people that I know really well and I respect. And I look at their work and I'm like, how did you think that was the same as what I was doing? Well, it's because they don't have a theory. They do not have a theory for what makes a good YouTube video. There are a number of writers that do not. There are many writers out there. In fact, I think this is kind of what fan fiction can be good for. Fan fiction is great for you're motivated to write and you just want to get it out there, and you're not yet at the stage where you have chops. This is how you're going to develop your chops. You're in a cover band, basically. I don't know why people poo-poo fan. I guess they don't anymore. When I was a young person, fan fiction was reviled. I don't know how else to put it. But it's just like being a cover band, right? You play covers and you learn your instrument and you learn how to serve the music, and then you start to be able to write your own music. Well, you need a theory for what makes good writing. Do you have opinions about what makes good writing? And we live in a very weird time in my life where for a lot of people, it seems as though, a lot of young people especially, that's always a dangerous way to start a paragraph. It seems as though a lot of people have convinced themselves that having strong opinion, that only bad people have strong opinions about anything. And I understand why. It's just an association, right? Like, these people seem to have the strongest opinions. What's that great? I love this quote, by the way. The worst are full of passionate conviction, and the best lack all certainty. Yeah, I love that. I basically believe it. I can hold contradictory ideas in my head, though. And the notion of having strong opinions about things is considered a sign that you're a bad person. It's like, well, you're going to have a hard time getting through life if that's your attitude. You're going to have to develop strong opinions about things. If you want to be respected, if you want people to take you seriously, you have to develop strong opinions about things. And that can be anything. It could be politics. It could be human interaction. It could be writing. So that's the secret. Do you read a lot? Do you read outside your genre? By the time I was 17, I had read dozens of autobiographies, actor autobiographies. I love those. I still read those. I read Tim Curry's autobiography. I read Anthony Hopkins' autobiography. I find them fascinating. I read autobiographies. I read Tom Wolfe books when I was 13, 14, 15, The Right Stuff. You know, I was reading my mom's Tea Cozy. No, she didn't read Tea Cozy. She tried. She didn't like him. Thank God, because I didn't either. Agatha Christie? No, it's okay. But she had the DL and Pascoe books. She had the Inspector Morse books. She had the Dalgleish books. I fucking ate those things up, right? Read outside your genre. And what happens is, if you listen to enough music, if you read enough books, whatever, watch enough movies in broad enough genres, you start to develop your own opinions about what makes something good and bad. And it has a lot to do with language. It has a lot to do with expressing it. Go on forums and talk about why you liked this book or why you liked it, and develop. Watch Anthony Fantano. Watch Abigail DeVoe. Watch Abigail DeVoe. Don't watch Anthony Fantano. He's got enough viewers. Watch Abigail DeVoe. Watch her work through the process of figuring out what she thinks about an album. It's remarkable, right? It's the reason you watch that channel, right? And that language, that's the key in building a theory. Theories about what makes good writing, they don't just manifest like Athena from the head of Zeus. You build them over time, and the way you build them is by talking about them. It's the language. That's what Plato said, right? We need the language first, and then we can think about it. I basically think that's true. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense because it's kind of a cart before the horse thing, but it appears to be true from my point of view. So that's the thing you need. Do you want to be a good video game developer? Do you want to make good YouTube videos? Do you have a theory about what makes good YouTubers? I did. I had watched thousands of hours of YouTube by the time I made my first direct-to-camera video. And I had really strong opinions about what made good videos. And the people I saw trying to resynthesize my success did not. They did not have those opinions. And so, well, there you go. Right? Anyway, I just talked for a long time. So, unfortunately, I can't stay caught up with chat. Otherwise, we won't get anything done today. We did a whole deep dive live. Nathan Thomas, 485. We did, I don't know, somebody in chat will know. Paul Pico was here a minute ago. He might know. We did like 9 hours on Rush on my Twitch streams. We did deep live. We spent, I don't know how many hours total, where I went the entire history of the band and we listened to entire sides of albums together on Twitch. Because I didn't have to worry about the copyright police coming after me. And it was extraordinary. And some of those might be saved, but the ones that are saved that don't have any music in them, I put the music in the do not save VOD channel. So it's not really that watchable, but they were extraordinary. And it was really amazing to me. I thought I was only going to do one of those. I only thought I was going to do Pink Floyd, because the story of Pink Floyd is unlike any other band ever. There is no other band whose story is as crazy and extraordinary as Pink Floyd's, and dramatic. It's like they should make a mini-series out of this. They should do an HBO mini-series, and it would be, if they did it, if it wasn't like, if it was not a hagiography, where it's their application for sainthood, right, and the band has to approve it. If it was an independent production, it would be unbelievably, people wouldn't believe it. People would be like, no, that didn't happen. And probably a lot of it would, as Nick says about a classic myth about Syd Barrett, I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. Sid would never waste good Mandy's, right? And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, fair. That guy would know. And so I thought people need to know this story. And so I told the story of Pink Floyd, the band, from 1965, I think, when they got started as a blues cover band, all the way through to like Momentary Lapse of Reason, which is, I think, where we stopped, right? And we listened, it was like 3 6-hour streams or something like that over the course of 3 weeks. And I thought I was done. I thought that was it. And then at the end of the year, that year, all these people on Twitter are tagging me, like dozens of people are tagging me, showing me their Spotify year-end wrap things. And they're like, Pink Floyd was my number one because of you, because of that stream. I've been obsessed with Pink Floyd, and they're my number. And I was like, really? Wow. Well, what else do I got? And we did Yes and Genesis and Rush, and we did ELP. That was the last one. And we did Peter Gabriel. He got his own chunk. Anyway, unfortunately, you cannot watch them, and that's one of the things that made it fun and special was everybody involved knew that the VOD was going to get deleted, and if you were not there when it happened, you missed it. It's like a concert, frankly, and I love that. I still love that. I do not regret that. So, one of the things I promised y'all. Oh, what a great question. Any chance for steel dwarves to come back from extinction in official MCDM products? So, I think you know a lot. I think you learn a lot about the setting for Draw Steel when you know that the steel dwarves are probably still out there somewhere, just up in the timescape, where there could just be a single ship. The quest is the quest. It could be just a single ship of steel dwarves, just trying to keep it together after millennia of becoming vagabonds and nomads. Any number of things could be happening up in the timescape. Where can I find these etymological? I don't know. I don't know where I got them. The Atlas of True Names. The Atlas of True Names. It says Kalimedia. K-A-L-I. Kali. K-A-L-I. Media. One word. And there's, yeah, I don't know. Yep. Just Atlas of True Names. It was like $5. No, it was five pounds. Doesn't feel like 5 pounds, but whatever. That's the problem with that little island. You stay on that island too long and you confuse your weights and currency. Excuse me. Yeah, I think of them as like circadian rhythms, the rhythms, the natural daily rhythms. And Willie came up with 7 aspects. And this is the core, this is the signature ability of the Heliox, is you have an aspect. And you choose your aspect. This is, people are going to immediately draw the wrong conclusion, like air, earth, water, fire, green, void, rot. But it changes every time you take a respite. And Willie wrote, every time you take a respite, you can change your aspect. And then we looked at the aspect abilities he came up with. I'm like, everyone's just going to take this one, bro. They're just going to take this one and they're never going to change their aspect. And so now we had a choice, which is either nerf that, which he didn't want to do, or I said, what if? I said, this would probably be legal if you don't get to choose your aspect when you take a respite. You have to change your aspect when you take a respite, and you cannot pick an aspect twice before you've picked all of them once. So you've got a list of 7 and you're checking them off in whatever order you want to check them off in, but once they're all checked off, they refresh and you can do it again. So you might be in your fire aspect today, but you could be in your water aspect tomorrow, and it's visible. It's visible. People can see it. And we talked about like all of the culture that they would layer onto this, all of the folklore. You know, there would be, think about how many cultural cliches and tropes they would have around all the different aspects. It would be, for them, it would be like astrology and a whole bunch of other stuff, all layered one on top of the other. Yeah, and most of it would be bunk, and there would be Heliox scientists who'd be like, no, you're the same person in all aspects. It's like kids running around. You give them sugar and they have energy, or they get excited, and it's like, no, they don't. That's not how energy works, bro. It's just they're kids, and their parents. You give them a treat, and they're excited because they got a treat, and the parents have been conditioned to think that kids get excited and get hyperactive when they have sugar, but the one has nothing to do with the other. How could it? Just think about it for 30 seconds, for Christ's sake. Anyway. Do I think you'll see the water elementalist soon? Not soon. Next year, I assume, but we're not working on it. Because we put the stuff in the core rules that we thought you needed. And that, by which I mean like a certain minimum number. Like this is here's all but 2. Here's all but 3 or whatever. It's a lot. There's already a lot of specializations. Enough to play for years and years. And so we're focusing this period of development, which ends in, all these products will be done in about 6 months. This period of development, we're focusing on stuff that we think people need that wasn't in the core rulebooks, like the Summoner and the Beast Heart. The Summoner and the Beast Heart we worked on because they were supposed to be in the core rulebooks. They're on the shirt, but for various reasons involving the order in which we designed things, we couldn't get the Summoner and the Beast Heart in there. It wasn't a page count issue. I mean, it was also that they would not have fit. But before we knew that, we were like, well, we can't put the Summoner in. We can't start working on the Summoner until we've finished Minions. And that means we don't have time to finish the Summoner. Same thing with Beast Heart. We can't finish the Beast Heart until we finish the monsters. You have a monster for a pet. So there's something had to give. So Summoner, Beast Heart, Adventures. Adventures are a big part of this push. A whole bunch of adventures we're working on because people need adventures in order to understand how to run the game and how we imagine it should be run. And Ancestries. We put 8 Ancestries into production because you're going on these adventures and you're meeting all these different species. You're going to go to the sun. Well, all right. That means you're going to meet the Heliox. Let's figure out what they're about. Ditto the Shadow Elves, the Gnomes, the Scarge, all those folks. So yeah, I am sure the Water Mage and the Rot Mage, all the different talent subclasses and stuff like that, those will all come online. We'll probably start working on them next year. They'll probably go on the Patreon first. It'll happen pretty fast. But right now so much is happening that time seems to be dilated. Dark Magician 666, I thank you and your friends for playing it. What's the best way to find a group where I can play and or direct? Well, I don't know the best way for you, Benjamin Wilkins. Or Benjamin Wilkes, 5162. I don't know the best way for you. We have a looking for group channel in our Discord, and it seems to get a lot of action. But then you're playing online with strangers. But I heard a statistic. It's not a statistic. I heard a thing on NPR, which is my way of saying I think it was basically reputable. A dude telling the NPR interrogator that most people drastically underestimate how much they would enjoy meeting a new person, by which they mean someone they had met before, not an infant. Technically, a new person is an infant. Reckless Roby, Reckless Aubrey. Why are you asking? Maybe I could, instead of answering the question you asked, which has no provenance and seems like a complete non sequitur, obviously, maybe if you explained the context for that question, I would be able to actually speak on something that might be useful or insightful. Will parts of Ringwell be? Nope. Well, we see them as things that lose money too, except we're about to go ask for like a little over $1 million to get Crack the Sun done. And the idea of spending that kind of money on an adventure is going to blow people's mind, and many of them not in a good way. Why do you need that much? There's a lot of really, anytime we've done a crowdfunder, there's always all of this sturm and drang in the greater RPG arguing sphere, which I don't belong to anymore. I'm happy to get out of. But this is going to be a really fucking expensive adventure to make. It's going to have a lot of art. It's going to have a lot of testing. We pay our testers. So it's when you do things here up at the sharp end, shit costs a lot of money. So yeah, we hope it doesn't lose money, but we see them as utility. Actually, I would say with the, it's fun in it's a false choice to make, the notion between like utility products for an RPG and kind of the fun stuff. The utility stuff is fun too. Like the Encounters book is going to be a huge force multiplier for directors. Just the oh my god, look at all of this work MCDM already did for me, and now I've got literally dozens of pre-made montage tests, negotiations, drop-in encounters, three dungeon delves, all this stuff already made for me. Well, that stuff's fun to work on. It was fun for us. So, you know, all this stuff I think of as being like real utility nonsense that we need to put in front of people so that we support Draw Steel. We want this to be, we want people to see that we're serious about this. And so we had ideas for really sexy products we could make for Draw Steel that our general manager was like, of all the things on this list, which is just the most exciting to you personally? And we all pointed at the same thing. He's like, well, maybe that's the product we should be bringing to crowdfunding, because that's the product that's going to get people who didn't back Draw Steel originally to go, I can't get that anywhere else. And we're like, yeah, I agree, except I feel like we got to get all this other stuff done before we can do that. So we'll see what happens. Will the Encounter book feel like Flea Mortals? No, the Monster book feels like Flea Mortals. The Monster book is Flea Mortals, basically. I mean, we had to remake the entire book from scratch, but we did that. Excuse me. Oh, look at that. Socratic Lover deleted a message. Oh, cool. Thank you. Good. Well done. Oh, yeah. What a good undarkened. The number of people who believe their intuition on what is game balance and is not, and does not need testing, is one thing that should shock me more. Well, remember the lesson of The Elusive Shift. The Elusive Shift, which is a book by John Peterson about what is a role-playing game, basically. The lesson is, no one knows what a role-playing game is. No one agrees. The reason there are all of these people on these forums arguing about role-playing games in a way that nobody argues about golf, nobody argues about macrame, nobody argues about any of these other hobbies that millions of people do all the time, but they argue about RPGs, is because no one agrees on what an RPG is. Well, that same thing that makes our hobby unique compared, no one argues about what a board game is, they just play them, right? They might argue about which ones are good, but they don't argue about what they are, right? That thing that makes RPGs uniquely different also makes them uniquely interesting. It means they can be whatever people want them to be. And there's a lot of people out there, and this includes a lot of people who talk about RPGs online, who see role-playing games as personal expressions of philosophy. More than a game, more than a product, more than a game, more than a thing that should be fun. They see them as personal expressions of the author's philosophical worldview. And if that is what you think an RPG is, then you don't need testing. Well, that doesn't make any sense. What do you mean testing? You might need editing, but you don't need testing. That game, that product represents your personal idiosyncratic view. Right? What would be the point of testing it? To make it less personal and less idiosyncratic and therefore less yours? Those people don't value that. We value a game that's fun. That's what we put first. And these are the results. What does a book outline look like? Depends on the person writing it. There's no laws of physics that would dictate it one way or the other. Oh, wow, Baxter Devon, that's old school. Yeah, you were in the community before there was a community. Yeah. Mercenaries, PS2 Mercenaries, some of the most fun I've ever had working on a game. All right, let's take a look at some of the Ancestry write-ups that I promised y'all, and then I'm probably going to have to stop because it's already 12:40. I feel pretty good about this stream, by the way. I hope you guys are having fun. Oh, what a great question. I shouldn't answer this because I can't keep answering all the good questions because then the stream will never end, or we'll never get to the stuff that I promised. Are there any plans to do something equivalent to prestige classes? No, but both James and I sort of thought that prestige classes would happen because we both think they're really neat and cool. But I think both James and I feel like, well, aren't those just titles now at this point? You can do a lot with a title. It's not impossible that we might see prestige classes in the future, but Draw Steel would have to be a lot more mature, I think. We need to, it's going to be a long time, folks. We're just getting started, I hope, fingers crossed, unless the crowdfunder augers in which case we all got to go get real jobs. But it's going to be a while before we understand what you folks are doing with Draw Steel. Right now, I don't think you folks understand what you're doing with Draw Steel. It's too new. There are too many people using Draw Steel to basically run their D20 fantasy games just in a better system. And that's one of the reasons we made this thing, is because we also wanted that better system to run our D20 fantasy nonsense. But as we're developing adventures ourselves, stuff like the Fall of Blackbottom and the Condemned start to stand out against stuff like the Red Road and Dark Heart of the Wood. Stuff like parts of Crack the Sun start to stand out. Like, there's some things we're trying to do in Crack the Sun that are fucking crazy that I've never heard anybody do before in an adventure. And in fact, all the common wisdom says you can't do that. And I'm like, why? Why? I don't understand why. Right? That's what I mean. I'm like, we haven't really seen people put the pedal to the metal with Draw Steel and take it and really put it through its paces. That's going to be a while before we do that. And so if we're lucky enough that the product gets to mature like that and builds an audience over time, over years, then who knows what kinds of cool expansions and add-ons. That's what I meant when I said there might be like an Immortals supplement for characters of higher than 10th level. What does that mean? Have you seen what 10th level characters can do? Well, it would probably require a different approach to class levels or classes. Would MCDM be open to work with a video game studio? I mean, what do you think the codex is? Like, it's got everything that video games have in them. It doesn't have to go through cert, thank fuck. So I worked on the, if you read, we did a video just earlier this week about the Ancestries, Draw Steel's Ancestries. And the stuff in the books went through a lot. We had to I had to edit these things and cram them. We had a certain amount of space. Each ancestry had a certain amount of space. We broke the rule for the Time Raiders because they were the last one. If the Time Raiders overflowed, they only overflowed into the end of a section, which was fine. If they had overflowed into the middle of an ancestry, that would have been bad. So the Time Raiders got an extra column, I think, of text. But all the other ancestries, there were various takes on them. And the first one I wrote, this is the first ancestry write-up. I had been throwing darts at the dartboard for weeks, and the other folks I was working with did not like what I was writing in a way that I found really frustrating, right? Because they weren't writing it. There was a lot of conflict there, but I was determined to square that circle. I could have just overruled them and said, I don't care. But I was determined to figure out, all right, how do I find a way to write and say the things I want to write and say without pissing anybody off? And it was the dwarf write-up. And the dwarf write-up in the Heroes book is a story with a character, Dazar, the iconic dwarf, meeting John and Embers, and they're recruiting him, and you'll learn a lot about what humans and elves think about dwarves and how dwarves act and behave, right? And how when they talk about they're like short Klingons, they're obsessed with glory and battle and I love that stuff. But I felt like I couldn't say that stuff because it was too proscriptive. But if I just put it in the fiction, then it could be true without being the only thing that was true, and that was the sweet spot of Toledo. Sorry, a little Blue Nile for you, everybody. Is the music too loud? I could turn the music down. Will the humans of Vanguard be a separate ancestry? Let me ask you a question. Do you think people in Scotland are a different ancestry from people in... No. People from Vanguard are humans, just like Homo sapiens, just like the rest of us. The Goal are like Neanderthals. The Goal aren't if I have led you to believe that the Goal are just a nation of people, then you have been misled. Nope, they are a different species of human. And they're the only other different species of human in Orden. Well, yeah, so somebody in chat asked, what's my favorite movie I watched this year? What do you folks want to do? Do you want me to talk about the ancestry stuff, or do you want me to talk about movies? Because we got to pick. And if I'm the only one that wants to hear the ancestry stuff, we can skip it. Okay, it seems like there's not a huge appetite for people talking about movies. Those of you who want to go talk about movies, go watch Be Kind Rewind. Go watch Be Kind Rewind. Just dropped a new video on Wizard of Oz. Here, so like this person here. Here we go. I can boot you. There you go. You're in the wrong chat. Done. Problem solved. So I did not know I was going to end up writing fiction. I didn't know that. I was still in that mode of writing a big encyclopedia entry about the dwarves of Orden, or the dwarves of Calavar, right? And it was going to sound like David Attenborough, right? And I was still in that mode, right? Classic RPG bullshit. And then I had a bit of a breakthrough, but the breakthrough didn't go in the book. I wrote the thing, and I'm like, this is how we're going to do it. And everybody got excited. Everybody's like, yep, that's cool. I like that, right? But that led to fiction. But this is what I started off with. And I don't know who this person is that's speaking. I don't know who the speaker is. It's obviously a dwarf, and I don't know who they're speaking to. I think as I was writing it, I developed the idea that it was an old elder dwarf speaking to a young dwarf just getting started in the world, right? But that's not how I started. I started just by writing it and seeing where it went, right? So in fact, we can skip I agree that the audio is the song, the lyrics are competing with me. I don't mind. Okay, so I think the intro is. Also, one of the things, this really broke my heart. I guess this is one of those kill your darling things, where I wrote these quotes for each ancestry, right? So the classes have class quotes. So the censor has Cervantes Calisac saying, "We fight until hell is empty." Right, which is, I thought, that's, if you want to know. And there was literally somebody somewhere online that on Blue Sky, I think, that said, I didn't really understand the censor as an idea until I read that quote. I went, got it. So that worked. We did the same thing for the ancestries, but there was physically, I don't even think there was no room for it. This was the thing that was annoying. It was that we could, the art, this is one of, I feel like we take art really seriously here. The reason the layout for Draw Steel looks the way it does is because our art team is co-equal with the design team here. And I would go out on a limb and saying there is no other RPG. I mean, that's not true. There's like stuff like Lancer and stuff. Obviously the art and stuff is cool. You look at Lancer and you're like, yep, they did not have to compromise. But you look at any big RPG book and they commission art, and then they take that art and they rip it up into all these different pieces and smush it all over the place. And they stick stuff on it. And the artists all have the same reaction, which is, okay, well, if I knew you were going to do that, I would not have drawn it that way. Well, here at MCDM, that means something's got to give, right? Because the art team they are co-equal to the design team. And so that's why all the art looks the way. In fact, we used to have a really nice, thin, tasteful gold border around in the interior of each of these pieces. And I thought it made it look pretty. Still very kind of minimalist, but pretty. And the art team is like, kill that fucking thing. I was like, why? Like, because again, if I knew you were going to put that border there, I would have drawn this piece differently. But what most RPG companies do is they use the art to fill their white space because they don't have discipline in the outlining process and the writing process. So they end up with all these big blank spaces and they have to fill it. Well, they don't commission art to fill that space. They take art that they've already commissioned and mat it out. And so there's just this part. And the artist is like, what the fuck? So this is one of those things where the text, there was the art for the ancestries was not drawn in such a way as to have text on it. Right? So anytime we tried to put the text somewhere, either A, the text was unreadable, right, because of the colors, or B, it was obscuring something that we all collectively thought was important. So we had to cut these. But I felt like these quotes went a long way toward sort of explaining things. So the dwarf quote was, remember, we are dwarves. Our strength is the strength of the earth, the strength of the marble column that rises to the heavens, the strength of the granite foundation that reaches deep into the earth. But what is the value of strength if it is not used in the service of justice? That's Zarok, the lawgiver, hero, dwarves, 232. So the age of dwarves. So that's like, 300,000 years ago, whatever. And then the dwarf entry, the intro to dwarves, I think is the same. I think this is actually what's in the hero's book. Possessed of a strength that belies their size, dwarven flesh is infused with stone, right? I think that's the same. But then you got this, which was it just said, dwarves, ! And that was a header. There's nothing a team of dwarves can't do. 5 dwarves alone could easily kill a dragon. 10 dragons. Why, Vorka the Fell-Handed alone slew 3 dragons at the siege of Varloska before succumbing to her wounds. 1 dwarf! Think what a small, dedicated party of dwarves could do. There aren't many of the great dragons left, alas, so we must content ourselves with fighting lesser evils. Necromancers. Tyrants. Folk who cheat at dice. We dwarves take the long view. Well, so do the elves. But the elves seem more interested in preserving things. Dwarves want to make things, improve the world. The world is fine the way it is. Shut up! No, it's not. The world is full of pain, misery, injustice. We cannot make a perfect world, but we can strive to improve the one we've got. Anyway, humans make too much of this so-called rivalry between dwarves and elves. Yes, it was an elf army that slew the last steel dwarves in the war against night, but that was tens of thousands of years ago. And anyway, those were the shadow elves, long banished to the world below. Not anymore. And none now live who remember those days. The steel dwarves, the greatest of us, are dead now. And our cousins, the fire dwarves, left this world for quintessence long ago. There, they built Alloy, the city of brass, the city at the center of the timescape, a marvel. Not so large as capital, perhaps, but not so fragrant either. It is left to us, the stone dwarves, the last children of Ord, to work stone, create great marvels with it. Our greatest days are not behind us. Who speaks thus? Have we not been to the hanging city of Cal Calavar together? Will you ever forget that place? I should not. Should I live to be 1,000, and neither will you. And it was finished in my lifetime, only 300 years ago. It's brand new. Elven rivalry. Ha! Did we not name the most precious metal in the earth? Valiar, after their god, Val. Val is a noble god, a worthy patron of the elves. He seeks justice and glory in his own way, we deem. Were one to choose the path of the conduit, you could pick worse gods than Val to serve. It is the humans who make so much of the rivalries between the ancestries. It was the humans who called us dwarves. We do not know the significance of this word in their tongue, but we accept it. Their speech is crude, true, but they are a young species after all. We must not judge them too harshly. Elemental would be a faithful translation of our word for ourselves into the Kalian tongue. The record of dwarven achievement is long, too long to tell in so short a space. And the tale of the world is long and belongs not to any one people. Was it a dwarf alone who slew Balarak, the Griefbringer? No, it was the Crown of 9 Stars, the legendary company of heroes that counted 3 dwarves among their number, but also elves and orcs and humans. Like the great cosmopolitan city of Alloy, we are stronger together. Look you again at the hanging city. Yes, your eyes well with tears from the magnificence of it, but see it clearly. Is it a dwarven city? Everyone calls it thus. But do you know how many humans live there? Thousands. And orcs and elves, of course. How else should it be? Some say the greatest ages of the world are behind us. But this is not so. Not so. While there is yet will in the world, there is greatness. You will see. The elves, the orcs, the humans and dwarves, all the speaking peoples have wonder in them yet. Our greatest days are ahead. Did not Ord make the world? None of us asked to come into this world, and, apart from the Hakan, none of us know how we will leave it. But remember, you are a dwarf. You have it in you to work marvels, to change the world. Be you a holy conduit of Valak Koth the Seeker, or one of the talented mind masters of the White Gem, a beast heart of the Dark Divers seeking through the world below for deep knowledge, or a master tactician of the Imperial War College and Capital, you will make a better world. You are young yet, but already those who work evil deeds should fear you. You are a dwarf. You have a great destiny ahead. So that was the original write-up for dwarves. And I think if we are lucky, and I think are going to have to get really lucky, but everything's pointing in the right. Where can you read that? If we get really lucky at some future date, and this is not going to be next year, and but you know, who knows what after next year, what dreams may come. A dwarf book, a book of dwarves, or a dwarf box set, this would go in there, and then people would get to read it. So eventually I felt like, as much as I like this, as much as it did what I wanted to do, I really wanted to meet a dwarf. I wanted to meet them in the world. And do you learn the same things from the write-up with Dazar and John and Embers? No, you learn different things. But I value those things more. So to me, it's sort of Hobson's choice. There's not a right answer, right? I got to pick one. I liked them both. And I think the Dazar one is better. But fingers crossed, if we ever get to do a complete book of dwarves, then this will be some of the leading write-up. So this is this is the original write-up for the orcs. Once I had the dwarf idea, I started writing. I wrote the dwarf one, and then I wrote the revenant one, and the revenant one, and the human one. Yeah, and they're the ones that got uploaded to the crowdfunder during that 30 days of crowdfunding. We uploaded those, and they got our 2 best days of crowdfunding outside the beginning and the end. Those 6 days, 3. The 24 days in the middle. By far the 2 best days of crowdfunding when we uploaded the human ancestry write-up and the revenant ancestry write-up. So we haven't covered orcs yet. That's Draw Steel Ancestries Part 2. But when I realized, oh wait, hang on a minute, I could do anything with this. I could do anything. It doesn't have to be, that dwarf write-up is one version of this, but I could do anything. Once I left behind, the dwarf write-up gave me permission not to do the ancestry, the encyclopedia write-up, right? The nature documentary write-up with a narrator. You know, dwarves live this long and they tend to, no. Once I could leave that behind, I felt free to do whatever I wanted. And this is what we wrote for orcs. Now, you can go read the orc write-up. It's free online. The whole game is open. You can read the actual orc write-up. It's in the hero's book. It's in the PDF. This is the original write-up that write-up replaced. Quote, even should an arrow pierce their heart, each Canaan warrior has within them one last act of revenge. Canaan are what they call themselves. Orcs is what humans call them. There's a lot of that exonym, endonym stuff going on. And I think the intro I wrote is the same. It's still an anger that cannot be hidden, a fury that drives them in battle. But then you get this, and Hugo Whitting. I mean, the whole game is open, everything except the art. We opened the. How do you not know this? Sorry, I like. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, there's a website, there's a compendium somewhere that has everything in it. So keep in mind, there's no context for this. It just says on orcs, and then this happens. So it's left to the reader to try to understand what it is exactly they are reading. And keep in mind, everything I'm about to say, there are no quote marks around any of these things. There's no quote marks, which gives you some indication of what's happening. What a world we have made. Indeed, what a marvel. It is a marvel now, with the dragons and celestials, elementals and terrans. It is unseemly. It was better before things started talking and having opinions about our creation, about us. Oh, I don't know. I thought I agreed, but then look you what our sibling Ord has made. A fine people, these elementals. They make marvels. Ord made them, and now they make miracles. We make marvels. The world is a miracle, and enough. Yes, but still, I think I might try my hand at children. It seems a worthy pursuit. Heed the lesson of our shamed brother. It was better before the coming of Terrans, before the coming of war. But war has come. Ord and I are of one mind in this. What is done cannot be undone. My children should not seek war, but they should excel at it, should it come. They would be strong, like the elementals, but theirs would be a strength of spirit. They would never relent, never give up, always seeking, always striving, like life itself. They should love the forest and green things, like the children of Val. But they should be at home in the cities the Terrans and Elementals build. In this world of chaos and law, they should seek balance. Not quick to anger, but once angered, a wildfire. If they excel at war, the Terrans will be jealous. They will be in constant conflict with each other. Perhaps. Yes, I think you're right. It seems to be the great tragedy of our creation, war. But the constant threat of it will bring wisdom. It will take great wisdom to avoid such a conflict, and those possessed of such wisdom will become great leaders. Would they be lore-wise and crafty? Oh, I would leave that to them. It is not meet that children should too closely be modeled by their parents. But you ask, and my mind goes to Ket. They should lack the pride of Ket's children. Look where that got him. Hush, you. We should not be too hard on our brother in mourning. He has paid for his hubris. My children would love the world more than lore. That is my answer. They seem a fine people, if you ask me. And there they are. Look at them, cool. Your thoughts made real. Only in the world a little while and already growing, learning. Ah, my children. So fierce and unyielding. I see you lead short lives like the Terrans. Perhaps this is good. I see they get along well with Ord's children. I think this is a good sign. Already they make homes in the forests by the elves. Some little skirmishing over borders, I note. Nothing serious. What shall you call them? Oh, I do not care for such things. They should be free of our designs, like the Terrans. Let them name themselves. Oh, they already have. Canaan. It means the people in their tongue. I like that. Very democratic. Good for them. And will they know you? if they wish. Much as I agreed with the father of men, I find worship unseemly. Agreed. Agreed. Let me introduce myself at least. Hear me, Canaan. This world we made is yours as much as it is anyone's. You belong here. Know that you are my children, the children of Kul, he who put fire within the world, and there is fire in you. And though the world and fate and baser minds may conspire to destroy your light, you will survive, and more than survive, you will thrive. And in thriving, you will conquer. I really liked that. I really liked getting to listen to a conversation between the gods about creating the world. But I really like meeting Corva better. I really like meeting Corva better. Like, do you learn a lot about the orcs in this write-up? Yeah, you do. But you get to meet one and get to see what they're like and how other people react to them. So those are the only two, I think. No, that's not true. There's the original Hakan write-up. And again, if we get to do something like an orc book or an orc box set or whatever, then that would go in there. That would go in there and people will get to hear it and get to see it. And it's all part of a puzzle, you know, like there's one of the things one of our senior mods, Jim, said, trying to explain to people what the relationship between Draw Steel, the core rules of Draw Steel is, and the implied setting for Draw Steel is that Draw Steel does not come with a setting. There is, by which he meant, and I completely agree, there is simply not enough information in those core rulebooks for most people to run a game in Orden. Yeah, but that's because they're not setting books. They're not setting books, they're core rulebooks. Many people already are running, but those people have been following my content for literally years, and they've sort of built a picture. Well, the Draw Steel core rulebooks begin the process of building a picture of the world. It takes setting material, which we're not working on really right now. That's probably next year's content is much more setting focused stuff. We'll see. Just Halfdan, I hope we get to too, but you know, it's the big unknown is that right now Draw Steel looks like a hit. It looks like a big hit from our point of view. We're selling tons of copies every day. This is the most we've ever sold of anything, including Strongholds and Followers, Flea Mortals. This is the best, most successful product we've ever made, but it's expensive. This is an expensive team, and none of us can tell right now, is it enough? That's what crowdfunding is going to tell us. If we're going to ask for a lot of money to get Crack the Sun done, and if we only just barely fund, that's bad news, right? If this crowdfunder merely does as much as our other crowdfunders have done, you know, the normal MCDM crowdfunder, not the 4.5, if it just does that, right? If it just does like $2.5 million, then we're off to the races. So we'll see. Yeah, it's not. I feel the same way. The Maw of Akamar, the Maw of Akamar. I feel the same way. It's disappointing how little lore and setting information there is in core books. But one of the first things somebody said when this chat started today, an hour and a half ago, was it's extraordinary how much setting material there is in Heroes and Monsters. It's just spread all over the place. There's a lot of information in there. It's just not the information you need to run a game. Is my opinion. Yeah. We'll get there. What's a mechanic I'm proud of or a breakthrough we made? I mean, all of them. Airship Captain. That's a discussion for another live stream. Twitch maybe. Oh, what a great question, Foxtrick. Foxtrick, longtime member of the Macholville live experience. Is a setting book better made after a novel introduces it? Maybe. You know, one of the reasons our general manager is pushing me to get my novel done, my third novel done, is because he and I both agree that maybe I should listen to Aesop Rock if that's who this is, because I really like this track. City lights start fading when the city... Anyway. down. We'll get there, Jade Faye. I hope. Fingers crossed. This is the only song by this artist or these people that I've ever heard, and I really like it. What was I talking about? It seemed important. Oh, so I want to write a Draw Steel novel. And this comes off the back of, I was just talking about this on Twitch. So again, a little Matt Colville goes a long way. I think the YouTube streams are good, but we talk a lot more about a lot more stuff on Twitch. And there was a thread on a forum about Gary Gygax, his influence, him as a person. Do we hold him in too high esteem? Should we be more critical of him and all this stuff? And specifically, the thread was about his business decisions. He was an unbelievably bad business person, but was full of he would have been the king of the confidently incorrect subreddit. He in interviews in like Newsweek, because TSR, the game company that made D&D, exploded during the Satanic Panic, and they 100x'd. Right. And they were seen as a miracle, a business miracle, an American business miracle. And so Gary gets interviewed in all these magazines and he says, well, I'm a game developer. I'm a game designer, and I'm a gamer, and us gamers are natural businessmen because business is all about rules. And we're the masters of rules, which is exactly what somebody says when they have no idea what they're talking about. And you read The Game Wizards. You can read The Game Wizards, another book by John Peterson, one of the more accessible things he's written. You could listen to, I really strongly recommend the podcast. It's 10 episodes and that's it. It's not an ongoing thing. It's the story of the beginning, life, and death of TSR, the business entity. Dozens and dozens of interviews of people who were there. And it's all about the business. And the whole first episode is just about Gary as a person, which I thought was really interesting. And in this thread on this forum about the business decisions Gary made, somebody talked about the Dragonlance novels and how successful they were. And a dude who worked at TSR during the Dragonlance era shows up in this thread saying those guys shot themselves. TSR managed to pull a rabbit out of their hat 3 times. And each time the first thing they did was they shot the rabbit in the head. And he talked about Rose Estes. All these are novels having huge success in the fiction department, success that dwarfed their success as game makers, right? And they had Rose Estes and the Endless Quest books, and those were a huge hit. And they paid the bills and kept the doors open because these guys didn't know how to run a game business. They didn't know how to do anything, as far as I can tell, right? And so what do? As soon as they have somebody on staff who turns out to be kind of a Dorothy Fontana situation. I wonder if Rose Estes thought of herself as kind of like Dorothy Fontana, because I think she was basically like the secretary, right? And then these choose your own adventure books came out and they were a big hit, and she's like, I could write one of those. And they're like, really? Go for it. And she does, and it saves the company. So of course they fire her. And then Weiss and Hickman show up and they've got Dragonlance, and it saves the company. The novels are bestsellers. And so what do? Go ask those guys how they were treated, right? And the point this dude made that blew my mind was the Dragonlance novels still in 2023, 2024 outsell everything TSR did. So that entire product line of RPG products that they made from 1974 to when did Wizards of the Coast buy them? 1996? That entire period, if you sum together all the revenue those books made in 2025, the original 3 Dragonlance novels outsell them because they repackage them every 5 to 7 years, and they become momentarily popular. And I told that to my general manager, and he was like, that makes sense. That makes sense, actually, because novels appeal to a superset of your audience. We're about to go to crowdfunding, and we're going to crowdfund like 7 or 8 products for Draw Steel. I don't know what the actual number is. The Ancestries book, the 2 quests, 1 adventure, 1 campaign, the Beast Heart. That might be it. So 6, but then other things we've already made, like the Summoner and the Fall of Blackbottom, are going to be in there. Anyway. Each of those appeals to a subset of Draw Steel players. Is that? but a novel can appeal to a superset of them. And so he was like, I think like The Condemned would make a good novel because it's completely self-contained. Original characters, completely self-contained. It's not in continuity with anybody's campaign. And he goes, but I was like, I would love to do that. We have an outline, and I think that's all I need. I think I could get it done in a couple months. But I can't go to the people and say I want to run a Draw Steel novel and not get Fighter done. He was like, okay, go get Fighter done. And I think that's going to happen. So I don't know. I think novels and setting material can go together. They're just different ways. I don't think that they're just different ways of learning the same thing, and different people learn differently. So some people will read novels, and as long as there's like a map in the front or whatever, they can run a game in that setting. Some people, that doesn't tell them anything they need to know. They need a box set. Some people are like, are you kidding? How am I ever going to get box sets are dry and boring, right? Novels are fun. And he's like, yeah, I mean, sure. I think a box set can be fun, but whatever. Bill Nye the Bounty Guy, no, you don't think it's vital for world feel. You think it was vital for you, but you are already aware that other people learn differently, right? And so, yeah, that's the point I'm making, is that it's vital for some people, not for others. And it tends to be that in the larger RPG blogosphere, everybody uniquely judges things based on whether they were idiosyncratically crafted specifically for them or not. And that, again, it's part of the elusive shift. It's part of the nobody knows what an RPG is thing. So this is the original write-up for the Hakan, which I really liked, but it looked and felt like all the other Hakan, all the other write-ups. It was fiction. You get to meet one. So on paper, you would think that this is a really good. Well, whether you think it's good or not is a matter of debate, but it obeys the conventions that I was developing, right? So why did I cut this? Well, let's get to it. Quote, defending the society's flank, the pillar stood alone against the Bloodstone Legion. The arrow was awestruck and afraid. She was a different person in a fight. Come forth, sons of Ord! The Hakan metamorph bellowed as Ajax's Dwarven Legion advanced, and meet a better woman than thee! On Hakan. You know when you're going to die? The pillar, dressed in her civilian clothing, a simple pleated dress cinched at the waist that left her bare arms free to work, dipped her hand in the pail of water. It immediately sprang to life. The water sizzled and danced as her fingers cooled. She pulled her hand out, shook off the water, and went back to sculpting the granite. The hard, tough stone melded like clay under her fingers. Whatever she was doing, it generated enormous heat in her fingertips, hence the pail of water beside her. The arrow couldn't tell if this was her talent manifest or something her people could do, or neither. As he watched, he recognized the bust. It was the girl they rescued during the Society's recent battle with the Academy. And then there's a footnote, and the footnote was going to say, see last issue, editor. Not exactly, the pillar said as she concentrated on her art. Not when, more sort of. She looked away from her sculpture and looked out the window, thinking, how? Why? I am told there is a sense of, she looked at the young man, a teenager only recently recruited to the society, anticipation, eagerness when the time is nigh. So, she took in a deep breath, which was an impressive sight to see in a 9-foot-tall woman, and let it out, smiling at the young man. Not anytime soon. Her smile was like a sunrise. Though he had lived with fear most of his young life, mortality was not something that plagued the arrow's mind. He had a hard time grasping it. That must be awful. Oh, no. She went back to work. No, I do not know how to say it in Kalian. It is a blessing. I have seen people die for no reason, be taken from their loved ones without warning, without purpose. There are unjust deaths. They destroy families, communities. But the doom side only comes in times of great need. People forget Holkatya is also the goddess of luck, and those who beat luck. Underdogs, as you say. She gave more than she stole, I sometimes think. I do not know how long I have. No one does. But I know my death will have meaning. I know it. Do you understand? I know it like I know my own name. Often I feel her hands clenched and unclenched as though she were trying to grasp something just out of reach. I yearn for it. I want it to happen. What greater end can there be than fulfilling one's destiny? She looked at the mostly finished sculpture. It gives everything I do a sense of purpose. She went back to work. My people are a serene and peaceful lot. We do not seek glory like the folk of Vanagar. But in battle sometimes, knowing I am getting closer to my word, my destiny, I think I know how they feel. Something comes over me, some enormous sense of rightness. She smiled again at the young man. It scares my friends sometimes, I know. The arrow had seen it and enthusiastically agreed. You're not from the Barrow Hills, he said. The pillar shook her head. No, I do not wot of your hills. I am of the hills north of the Blue Cloud Mountains in far Vanagar. She turned and looked down at the arrow with some pride. My people are descended from the original Haka'an tribe. She went back to work. Though I am sure the Barrow men, as you call them, are a fine people. We're all related, you see. Is that why you joined the society? Oh yes, the pillar said. I had only left home a fortnight previous when Memory came to Vanagar to recruit me. I had a sense my word lay in some distant land, but I did not know the world was so big. Did she look like herself? The arrow asked, smiling, enjoying a moment of shared experience with the giant woman. The pillar chuckled, and the arrow's chest vibrated with the force of it. No, she looked like an aged wise woman of Vanagar. I think only in fabled Alloy could the memory of a sunset at dawn walk the streets without scaring the horses, as they say. Alloy? The pillar looked at the arrow out of the corner of her eye. You'll see, she said with some glee. You were following your vision, you said. Yes, my word, as the Vanagar call it. What did you see? Oh, she smiled and blushed. It is not meet to say. It's bad luck? You would say, maybe. I think rude is closer. But the doom sight is rarely clear in any event. It is full of symbolism and metaphor. My father is the Shire of our tribe, the Scald, as the Vanagar call it. He thought the symbolism was a kind of protection, so that I might know with certainty the meaning, but be unable to convey it to others. She nodded. I think he is right. Is it like a dream or a nightmare? The arrow wasn't sure how much it was okay to ask. No, it was not a dream. It was a thing that happened. She turned to face the arrow and leaned her massive arms on her legs. I know not how it is for other doom seekers, but this is how it was for me. I was collecting flecks of jasper, a mineral we add to our food. I was picking flakes of rock up off the ground when I saw a bee that could not fly, and a horde of ants all around, one with wings. In that moment, that was all I could see. It was like the rest of the world fell away, and the bee and the ants filled my sight. Though the bee was surrounded and the ants seemed to go on forever, I could see the ants were afraid. There were dozens of dead ants on the ground. What did you do? The pillar was lost for a moment, remembering. What happened next? The pillar shrugged, giant muscles in her shoulders rippling. That was the end of my vision. At that moment, I knew I had to leave home. Wow. Indeed. Its meaning is clear to me. I stand alone against the endless horde. In my heart, they are Ajax's war dogs. I think I know this, but... She shrugged again. But how come you're alone? Where am I? Where's the society? Who knows? She smiled. When the vision comes upon you, it is all that you can see. Maybe it is like a painting, and I am the painter. And if only I could turn my head a little ways, right outside the frame, I would see my friends are standing there fighting with me. I like to think mine is a great sacrifice, made so my friends can escape some overwhelming evil. It is a common theme among the fated, I am told. What about the bee? What happened to the bee? Oh, feeling sorry for it, I placed my finger gently on the ground, and you must see, she held up her pinky, even my little finger is a mighty wall for the bee. I sought only to protect it from the ants, but it quickly scrambled onto my finger, and after I stood up, it cleaned itself and flew away. It could fly, the arrow said, suddenly full of youthful exuberance. It could fly the entire time. It was just waiting for someone else to come along. The arrow stared wide-eyed at the pillar. Even before the young man spoke, the Hakan talent's eyes widened in realization. My vision, she said, wasn't over, the arrow said, his joy impossible to hide. So that was the original write-up for the Hakan, because at that time, all Hakan heroes, not normal Hakan, not peasant Hakan, all Hakan heroes had the Doom Sight. It was not optional. There were no optional ancestral write-ups. No, Memory is not a voiceless talker. No, Memory is like a Thrycreen, although not like a Thrycreen. She's an insect person. And so I cut this and replaced it with Ardashir. I think the Ardashir write-up is better, obviously. Otherwise, I wouldn't have replaced it. But I replaced it for two reasons. One, the Doom Sight became optional. Oh, okay, cool. So you meet Ardashir, who does not have it, but his brother does, and he's following his brother. Okay, cool. But also, my gut told me that while this would be a lot of fun for people that are hardcore MCDM fans because they bought the talent, the talent PDF, the 5e class that we made, sort of an alternate spellcaster class for 5th edition, and it had fiction in it, had a lot of fiction, the fiction of the Society, which I wrote, not in spite of the fact that I'm an egomaniac, not because I'm an egomaniac. Jason, when I told Jason what cover I wanted for the talent, which is, it's in the Heroes book, and it's one of the coolest fucking pieces of art in the whole book. It's a Grace Chung original, and it shows Baron Victor von Void fighting the Society. Jason's like, Matt, if you want that kind of cover, then you need to invent the X-Men. I don't know how else to tell you this, man. Like the covers you're referencing are cool because we all already know who the X-Men are, but the art team doesn't know anything about your world or the talents. You need to do that work. And I went, okay. And I wrote a whole thing, a whole big long story with my version of the X-Men in it. And they're all different subclasses of talent. And it was really fun. And having done that, the art team was like, okay, we can draw these folks. And that's where the cover of the talent came from. I felt like the goal with Draw Steel should be looking forward to the new audience, not looking backward and rewarding the people who've been, with Easter eggs and stuff like that. And so I felt like I don't think it's fair to suddenly pick up the story of the Pillar and the Society when 99% of the people buying and reading Draw Steel have no idea who these people are. So that's why I was like, it's a missed opportunity not to have John and Embers and Dazar meet a Hakan. It should be them. It should be them. I still feel that way. And actually, the original Hakan write-up, let me read that and then we'll be done. And maybe we'll do more readings after the next video, but the next video won't happen until Draw Steel Ancestries Part 2 will not happen this year, I do not think. New Hakan Ancestry write-up, but is this going to be... Okay, this is... Yeah, there's an alternate version of this. Let's see if I can find it. No, it's going to be in here. It's June 17th. June 17th, April 14th. This is almost certainly... Yeah. No. Hang on, this is new. What's the name of this? New Hakan Ancestry Write-Up. Where's the old? Here we go. Ancestry Hakan. Okay, so it's this one. Wait. Is it this one? Nope. What's this? That's not going to work. Me searching for this is not going to work. Because it's going to be in the history of this document, not in the document. Correct. So the question is, how do I find new... Okay, so this is annoying. All right, maybe it is in this one. New Hakan write-up. I'm going to be real annoyed if this is lost to the mists of time. Nope. Fuck. Where is this? There was a different version of this document, which does not appear all versions. All versions. So where? Fuck, this is annoying. Well, maybe this might be something I have to do some research for. So I've got two different, I've got the old Hakan write-up and the new Hakan write-up, and neither of them have the content I'm looking for, and I don't know where it might belong. Where did I write that originally, if not here? Well, it doesn't matter. But it might be in Word somewhere. That's possible. It might be in the Patreon. Let me check the Patreon. That's possible. It doesn't belong there. I mean, in the sense that, like, there's no reason I should be able to find the draft I'm looking for here. I don't know. Is it possible? Where's did I ever post the original Hakan write-up to the Patreon? How do I search my own Patreon? Nope, this is the old one. Well, that makes me sad because makes me sad because the original Hakan write-up, I should say the first draft of the second Hakan write-up had Jackson Bootblack was in the group, and Jackson Bootblack was the one who'd gotten eaten by the egress demon, and like Dazar is the one that's going to go in and get him, I think. And it was great because when Ardashir saves Jackson Bootblack's like, what the fuck is that? And John goes, oh, no, you never met a Hakan before, huh? Interesting. And which is a callback to the fact that John had never met a Polder before. He's like, I'm sure they're around, but I've never adventured with one. And so that callback was fun. And of course, when he goes, oh, never met a Hakan before, Jackson Bootblack goes, get fucked. Which I liked. It was fun. And so now I don't know where it lives because I can't find the looking at the history. It only goes back to April 14th. And I don't know where the version before this is. So I cannot share it with you. So I think that's it. I think we're done. Yeah, that was a breakthrough I think James came up with, hater immunity all. The notion that, although I think there might have been a meeting that we were all in, the idea that when we're talking about things being, species being small or tiny or medium or large, what that means in terms of squares. And we were kind of locked into this assumption that a large creature needs to be a 2x2 creature. But that things got real weird. We're like, you mean this playable ancestry is as big as this other thing that's... And the idea that within one square, it's tiny, small, medium, large. So there's like large... 1. L1 means I still only occupy one square. I'm still a playable species, but within that square, I am large, right? And there was a really subtle, simple thing, but it's really powerful. And that's always good design. So I think that's it, folks. Oh, I'm glad you liked it, Nicholas Bennett. I worked really hard on that book, and I'm working really hard on the new one. I could indulge you folks and read some of my new novel, but I am going to save that stuff for my Twitch streams. There may be a Twitch stream later. We may go back to space. Last night's space session was very challenging, but I've recovered and I know more now. I want to try that thing where you spawn a fully loaded Perseus and you take the torpedoes out of the firing tubes and you put them into the storage tubes, and then you reload the Perseus, thereby getting a double carafe of torpedoes, and not fly your ass across the solar system just to buy raw torpedoes and grav gun them one by one. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for hanging out. Until next time, I don't know when we'll see each other next. There will be a Black Friday video for Black Friday this week, which is going to talk a lot about what you folks have been working on, because it's both, here's what MC Dan's been working on, and here are a bunch of community creations that we're excited by. Maybe there'll be a live stream for that, but maybe not. We got a lot to do. So I don't know when we'll see each other next. Until then, be seeing. I thought this was a great stream. I thought this was a really good stream, folks. So thanks for asking really good questions. Thanks for being a great community. We talk a lot about Draw Steel here, but we don't only talk about Draw Steel. You know, there are other games. So have a great rest of your weekend, folks. And I may be live later today. I don't know. We'll see. But that would be on Twitch.